I'm Martin Russ, author of Optimize the Moment, a guide to lead decisively, plan strategically, and communicate effectively. Welcome to my podcast.
Hi, Martin.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I'd love to talk about managing through noise today.
Well, there certainly has been a lot of noise,
Yeah.
a lot of information coming at people, elections, talk of elections on this side of the border, and a big election south of the border.
Yep. And so in this fast-paced, information-saturated environment, how do you filter out the noise to focus on what truly matters when you're strategic planning?
Well, I spend a lot of time with clients, with companies, and other types of organizations trying to filter out the noise. And what do we mean by that? What are the things that actually affect decision making? A lot of boards of directors and senior management struggle with this. We talk about this pretty much every day with clients in terms of what are the pieces of information that actually do affect their businesses, their organizations on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
And people, it's perfectly natural, it's human nature to react.
Yeah.
To react to news stories, to react to what's on Twitter or X, to react to what they hear from suppliers and customers and government officials, because let's face it, every organization operates in an ecosystem. They don't operate in a vacuum. So they get information and commentary from a wide variety of places. So I spend a lot of time helping them talk through what some of that means. So we can't ignore it. It's not a good idea to ignore it.
Yeah.
But we do focus on keeping the main thing.
Yes.
And so what is the mission? What are we actually trying to accomplish? And as we talk about a lot in the book, Optimize the Moment, identifying what that mission is, and I'm not talking about the grand overarching mission statement that a lot of companies and organizations have. That's great. That's important to have. But on a more practical, definable level, we talk about having a mission that a goal that we are setting out to accomplish today, this week, this month, over the next quarter. And there might be multiple missions at any given point in time, but defining what that is. And so what are the things that feed into that mission? What is important to accomplish that mission today? If it's not relevant to the mission, we set it aside. If it doesn't help us inform the mission or guide the people who are trying to implement the mission, we set it aside. And that process is important today, right? It helps us deal with the noise.
Yeah.
It's not to say that a particular news story isn't relevant to our industry. Sure it is. But it may not be relevant to our mission. So we set it aside. The other thing we do is intelligence gathering. We actually go out and proactively look for those data points and those things that inform our decision making. And so if somebody hears something from an industry partner, an industry supplier, a customer, perhaps they've attended a trade show, a conference, all places where we get inundated from noise.
Yes.
And by noise. My question then is, usually back to the person, how does that relate to the intelligence we've gathered? Does it support it? Because we've probably, as part of our process, developed a working theory. And we're constantly trying to test our working theory. So does that piece of information you've heard, does that support our working theory? Does it challenge our working theory? Does it raise more questions for us to go out and ask? And so we stay on process, and we keep a rigorous process.
I think that's great because I remember reading studies even years ago that the most successful organizations are the ones that do exactly that. That they, 15 to 20%, like who is the most successful and who's average. And it is that top piece that you're talking about, how you stay focused on it, and then doing the important work and filtering out the noise that a lot of people get caught up in because they're trying to clear things out. Is that fair to say?
It's so easy to get distracted and go off on tangents. Especially if you're a company that is constantly trying to innovate
Yeah.
and come up with the next great thing. Because sometimes your clients, the vast majority of your clients, don't necessarily need the next great thing.
Yeah.
They're still trying to figure out how to use the last great thing. And in their way, customers still have to try and tell you that.
Yeah.
So sometimes changing things too much too fast isn't always a great idea. Customers, we are slow to change, and so we sometimes still need to evolve with the product. So it's great. We go and we see things on the big screen sometimes. The futuristic world. The truth is, as human beings, we don't deal with change, that well. So dropping us into a futuristic world of that's how that would be, we actually wouldn't deal with that super well. So evolving us in that way, works much better.
So for change management, what I'm hearing from you is stability with progress.
So change management is a big part of the world in which we live. So, we're talking about the elections a little bit, south of the border, being bold. We're going to see lots of bold decisions around us, companies making some bold decisions. I think in this new environment, they've been given permission to make some bold decisions. In fact, they're being challenged to make some bold decisions. We saw this week that Walmart came out, for instance, and has ditched their DEI program, and they're going to focus on doing things differently. So in this new environment, companies, organizations have been given permission to make some bold decisions to drive forward with a new mission and a new focus on productivity and regaining marketplace, regaining market share in a new kind of America and a new North America.
Is accountability in that mix?
I would suggest that it is, right? There's going to be a smaller group of people making decisions, and with that comes accountability and responsibility in a fundamentally different way than what we have had in recent years.
Okay, so the outcomes are going to be, there will be measurables attached to this, like what is your objective and how did you get there? Not how did you get there, did you get there, I guess.
Did you get there, right? So again, in the process that I talk about in the book, where you have a mission, that mission is defined, and you hire the right team to get there, right? Then you are measured by the mission. And it is an outcome-based process that everyone can see, right? So you would contrast that perhaps to an environment where, it's a, awards are given for participation.
Right.
I'm trying to be polite about that. But, this is not a world where we get participation awards. Those days are done. And nor can people expect to get, salaries, incentives, bonuses, and participation awards, just for showing up. Those days are done. And we are now in an environment where productivity matters, mission matters, outcome matters, and merit matters. And so those are going to be the new catchphrases and the new drivers.
So can you share your approach about critical decision making under pressure? Because I feel like this is a pivot, and people will be under pressure, and we have a new kind of equation in there.
We do have a new equation, and we have environments today where a lot of companies are set up in silos, where the people at the top of those silos have responsibility, but they don't have the authority to make decisions.
It's never a good thing.
It's not great. It has evolved this way over the last number of years, even perhaps the last number of decades, where we have silos and people have responsibility for those silos, but the decision making rolls up to somebody else somewhere else. As these environments change, and we're seeing it unfold before us right now, more and more, people are going to be tasked with critical decision making, and it's going to be a change, right? So this is a change management exercise. People are going to need to go through that process of doing the intelligence gathering, looking at that analysis objectively, right, and making sure that path forward is illuminated properly for them, and then making the bold decisions and owning them, and that is something that we haven't actually seen a lot of in recent years. There's been a lot of passing the buck, de-risking, mitigating, and blaming others when things go wrong.
I feel that trust is a central theme in all of this. I have a friend who, a Canadian in the U.S., who is at very high level fundraising. And her methodology was dictated by someone else. And so she wanted to change the approach of how she raised money during COVID. And the only person higher than her in the organization said, no, you have to do it this way. And it didn't work.
Yeah.
And she had to wear it. So it's what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. And I see it in government. I see it in companies over the last number of years. There used to be a system in government where, the cabinet minister or the prime minister, was ultimately responsible. That was the whole point of our government system, was that the person at the top was responsible for the decisions and actions of the people underneath them. So we have seen people in past governments, lose their jobs and have to resign over a myriad of things.
$22 orange juice.
Expense reports and all sorts of things. More recently, it has become the norm, for them to blame the civil servants and push the blame down and in a variety of ways, even for their own actions, which has really become quite discerning, right? So I'm a huge fan of the professional civil servants, and I think they work hard. They somehow get out of bed every morning and face these big, tough challenges within a government machine that is often a big ship to turn.
Sure.
So I don't know how they do it. But, there are a lot of very capable, professional, intelligent, well-educated, purposeful people who do that every day, and I'm a big fan of them. So when they put together, their analysis and their work, and they present that, and they work it hard, and then they get thrown under the bus, it's just, there's something wrong, right? There's something very wrong with that equation. So my hope is, as we begin to see the pendulum swinging back the other way.
When you're advising people for long-term strategic goals, how does this impede that process for businesses, and how do you think it will change with the pendulum going in the other direction?
Well, in order for organizations, so businesses, not-for-profit, and for governments, they have to be thinking long-term. A lot of the problems that we've seen and experienced are when decision makers have been making very short-term decisions.
Yeah.
So this short-termism, and people have written books about short-termism, right? The Institute for Corporate Directors have published papers around short-termism and companies that have been making decisions around these 30, 60, 90-day results, led a lot to the offshoring that we've seen. It's been really, really problematic. So, the pendulum swinging back the other way and being strategic means thinking long term.
Yeah.
that doesn't mean you don't have missions that aren't short term. You need those missions that are short term in order to achieve the long term strategy.
Yeah.
Of course you do. Absolutely. You know, in order to win the war, there are short term missions that need to be achieved today. So it's a process, and we're beginning to see some of this. We're beginning to see some companies thinking much, much longer term in their kind of strategy development. The traditional strategic plans, I mean, the subtext of my book literally is when strategic planning fails. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan because the whole process around traditional strategic planning is flawed and fraught with all sorts of problems that we need to spend hours on talking about. But you know, this notion of having these plans that are, you know, shorter term, that have the right team, that are informed by intelligence gathering in order to achieve 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps that get you closer to achieving that strategic goal.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that is definable. That is where people can be held accountable. You can see your results. You can pivot if you need to. If this didn't work, then you can do that. You can inform the intelligence gathering. Intelligence gathering is about asking questions, testing your working theory. If you need to adjust your working theory, go ahead and adjust it. You know, a part of the book I talk about is having people around you who have different opinions and different ideas and who challenge you, right? So not always having like-minded people around you so that you can constantly test your working theory and challenge your ideas so that you can be constantly evolving. Because in order to achieve those missions, especially in this difficult, turbulent, mixed-up world that we live in, you got to be smart.
Yeah.
You got to be really, really smart, and you got to be ahead of that curve.
And you have to break that technological stronghold of echo chambers. That's what I'm hearing from you.
You got to be. You got to break the technological reliance, right? And part of that, where my thought went when you said that, we got to break our immediate response, which is to look for the easy button. So often, you know, companies and individuals and organizations look to technology to be the easy button. Well, let's just look it up. Let's just ask AI. Let's just, you know, surely they've done this before, right? We don't have to recreate the wheel, right? All of those metaphors and analogies and things, there is no easy button, right? Sometimes you just have to work it through. Define the mission, put the people together, and work the problem, and you'll get the result. There's, you know, again, there's no shortage of metaphors for, you know, the hard work actually does pay off. But in an environment where we have a lot of technology and a lot of information at our fingertips, the temptation is just to tap it out. Well, we can just do this and we'll get the same thing. Actually, no, you won't get the same thing. Without the rigor, without the process, without the objectivity, without the analysis, and without doing it properly, you won't get the same thing. And that's the difference between actually being successful and getting a partway result.
Well, that's a great way to end, Martin, because you just talked about optimizing the moment.
Optimize the moment. That's right. There's a difference between surviving the moment, I guess, and just you know, riding it out for another day. And there will be some people, I suppose, who are satisfied with that. But most business people I know, most people who are running organizations, most successful people I know, they're not satisfied with just surviving today, right? They want to succeed, they want to thrive, they want to grow, they want a better world in which to live. They actually want to optimize every moment.
And I think the beauty of that is accepting the world that you're in, not the world that you want. You have to deal with reality and pragmatism. And you use what you've got in front of you.
And you do have to be a bit of a dreamer.
Yeah.
and be able to envision what it is that you want and go after it.
I love it. Where can people get your book, Martin?
My book is available through Amazon, through all the Amazon platforms, certainly throughout the UK and the US and here in Canada, and at Indigo and Barnes & Noble in the States.
Okay, thanks very much. Looking forward to our next conversation.
Thank you.